What's up guys? Today I want to talk about something that affects me personally every single day, and that is tourism and the way tourism is affecting Iceland. Let's just start from the beginning of this whole tourism journey that Iceland is going through. Back in 2010, Iceland was a small country, and by that I don't mean that it has increased in size, but rather that the idea of Iceland has increased in size. So back then nobody knew about Iceland. And what caused people to start noticing Iceland is a huge eruption we had back in 2010. The eruption happened in a glacier called Eyjafjallajökull. You can try to pronounce it, it's written like this. That exact eruption caused a lot of disruption of flights in all of Europe, and people got very angry. But the good thing is that it also made a lot of headlines, and it kind of put Iceland on the map. The only thing that a lot of people knew about Iceland before 2010 was that Icelandic bankers were a huge cause in the 2007-2008 recession. So that wasn't a really good image of the country. But in 2010, the whole image of the country changed. Iceland was portrayed as a somewhat exotic and a really exciting place to visit. So after 2010, that was when we really started seeing an increase in foreign visitors coming to Iceland. So fast forward to 2014, and the number of people visiting Iceland had doubled from 500,000 people a year to almost 1 million. It had not yet gone above the million mark, but it was almost there. But what also happened in 2014 was that we had another eruption. So in 4 years we had 2 eruptions. That eruption wasn't as destructive as the first one and didn't cause any disruption in flight, so people weren't angry about that one. But yet again, it portrayed Iceland as an exotic and exciting place to visit. And at the same time as the eruption was happening, the Icelandic national football team was making headlines because they were making it to the qualifying rounds of the FIFA World Cup, and for such a small nation to make it to the qualifying rounds of the FIFA World Cup is a huge deal. So for scale, Iceland only has around 330,000 people living here, while for example Portugal has 10 million people living there. What happened in the following year after those 2 big events is that numbers of people visiting Iceland went up by 30%. The number was now above million, hitting almost 1.3 million people. And that's a lot of people for a country that only has 330,000 inhabitants. So now we had a huge snowball effect. In the age of social media, where everyone can post their own photos of Iceland to Instagram and Facebook and showing their friends what they're seeing in Iceland, Iceland became a traveling option for so much more people in the world that the numbers went up by 40% in the following year, raising to 1.8 million people visiting Iceland in 2016. And that's something we really need to manage properly so it doesn't have a bad effect. Speaking for me personally, I don't think that 2 million people are too much, but I really think it needs to be managed better. People are visiting the same spots over and over again. But before we get into the way that tourism is affecting Iceland and what we can do to make both the visitors and the locals as happy as possible, let's jump out and see some of the spots that the people are coming here to visit, because the Icelandic nature is really beautiful. I just hit my friend. It's one that I know is always up for an adventure. Here he comes. Hey! So today we are not using Gandalf. We are using my mom's car, because if you can see that stating that he's spending 0 liters of gasoline per 100 kilometers. And that's because it's electrical. Our plan is to go to Mývatn. It's a region in northern Iceland, and we're gonna spend the rest of the day there. So let's go. We just arrived at our first location. It's called Gollafoss. That means waterfall of the gods, and it's one of my favorite locations in Iceland, especially because it's close to my home and I've been here like 20 times. And you probably can't hear me very well now. Let's take a look at the waterfall. our second spot today, and here the earth is basically boiling. It's like this. Hvað heitir það ensku?
What?
Nei, þú veist, hver er þetta? It's like a geothermal area, and it's muddy here. My shoes are getting dirty as f***.
Það er ógeðslegt! Oj!
Yeah, that's my friend. That guy right there. He's always laughing, like sometimes he just starts laughing for reasons we don't even know. But that's him. This area is super cool looking, but like walking in it gets your shoes like super dirty. And my mom isn't gonna be very happy when I get back into the car. Sorry, Mom. But yeah, this area is super cool. It's like the earth is smoking or melting. So let's...
Þetta var með svokallað bíró.
So we just finished eating, and I'm just gonna grab my... Still like a bit too wet and snowy to be skateboarding, but I kind of enjoy it. I just spotted another guy skateboarding as well. I have like two choices. I either need to get one of those boosted boards, or I need to do more cardio. But anyways, back to the topic that we were talking about before we went out, and that is how tourism is affecting Iceland. So now that you've seen a little bit of the nature that we have here in Iceland, you maybe understand why people come here, because the nature is really beautiful here. But the thing is that those spots that we went to aren't even the most popular spots. The most popular spots are in the south coast. And one of the downsides of all these people coming here is that those locations in the south that are most popular are getting destroyed because there are way too many people visiting there. In my opinion, Iceland can handle way more than 2 million people. Since a small island like, for example, Tenerife can handle 5 million people, all this space that we have in Iceland should be able to handle 2 million people. But we really need to get the people to go out further into the country than just the south coast and the Blue Lagoon, which have been the main points of attraction. But a good side to all these people coming here is that it gives the Icelandic people a lot of opportunities. The visitors that we have here every year, they need somewhere to sleep, they need food, they buy guided tours, and all of this is bringing massive economic growth into the Icelandic economic system. And for a person living in Iceland, that is a really good thing after the recession in 2007. But the greatest thing about all of this, and is related to the economic growth, is that it is giving the Icelandic people opportunity to live at their home. Let me explain that a little bit better. In Iceland we have 330,000 people. 60% of that people live in the capital region. That might not seem like any problem, but the problem is that a lot of people that are used to living in the country haven't had the opportunity to keep on living there. they've had to move to the capital just to get a job. That isn't something that we, the Icelanders, can have a big impact on by ourselves. But a growth in tourism has led to a growth in these rural areas as well, and that is really a great thing. Just recently it made headlines that the population in the place that we visited around Mývatn has never been more since 1993. So you can see that the tourism is changing the development of the population in Iceland and bringing people back to where they want to be, at home. Because a lot of those people don't really want to move to the capital, they have to, because there aren't enough opportunities in their home. So that's a very good side to tourism, and that's why I think Icelanders need to stop worrying that we are having too many people. We just need to market these areas outside of the south, so our visitors know what they can do outside of the capital region and outside of southern Iceland and the Blue Lagoon, because there are plenty of opportunities in Iceland. Although I'm saying that Iceland can handle 2 million people a year or more visiting the country, it's very important that these people spread evenly around the country, because nature in the south has really suffered recently, and that's really a bad thing. And the reason for that is partly because of the lack of money that's put into infrastructure at these tourist places that most of the people visit. But another reason is that when we put bans on like going to places or, for example, off-roading, that's a big problem in Iceland. People don't respect that, and we really need people that are coming here to respect that, as well as the locals, but the thing is that the locals already know the rules and care about the nature because it is our home, so they don't go, for example, off-roading, because that really leaves a mark on nature for decades. So the bottom line in all of this is that tourism is affecting Iceland in a good way economically, but nature is suffering a bit, but that can be fixed with a good cooperation between visitors in Iceland, locals and the government. So to break it into a few steps, the government needs to build the infrastructure and the facilities around the tourist places better. Tourists need to respect the rules, and locals in Iceland need to help tourists be aware of the rules and follow the rules that are here. If you're interested in visiting Iceland, leave a comment below. That's it for today. Remember to like and subscribe, and I'll see you guys next time.